All right. So a few updates. Movie night. We are holding movie night on Thursday, the 30th, which is in a couple days, at 7 o'clock at the office in Root House. It's for people with lived experience. We're drawing in just some more things for us to do, you know, just building those recreational activities. So, and then in April, we'll be doing paint and pizza night, and we'll get that out after we start, or we get done with this one. The resource guide, you all seen, I'm sure the resource guide was sent out in the email. Thank you. Our plan is to update the resource guide at least 2 times a year, but we will make changes as needed. So if there's stuff we've missed or stuff that we just didn't know about, let us know, and then we'll just add it in there, and then we'll get a new version put up on the website. By the end of the week, I'll have it up on our website. We'll have copies printed and delivered to the courthouse, and then some of our community partners that work with people with lived experience. We're going to get it out to as many people as possible. And then our new Ross coordinator will start Thursday. Her name is Heather. She's joining us from Macoupin County Public Health Department, and she's fantastic. I think that everyone's going to love her. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So Heather will be joining us. Yeah, Piper. Heather's joining us starting on Thursday, so she'll be at our next Rocks Council meeting. And then we have 2 more positions that the Recovery Corps is hiring for, which they will be stationed with us. So it's a recovery navigator and a project coordinator. So essentially it's an Amanda and a Heather from the Recovery Corps. So those positions start, the first round starts in August. So if you know anybody that's interested or you're interested, apply for them because it's an 11-month project. Yeah. But it expands the Recovery Council's capacity. So it's a great project. You know anybody, pass it along. First round starts in August, and then it'll be August, October, and January. So there's 3 groups. If we don't find anybody, then they'll go to October. If they don't find anybody, they'll go to January and just keep going backwards. So those are the only updates we had for you. The strategy plan. So we wanted to finish the review of the strategy plan and then talk about it. I'm just going to briefly go over the end section because we got kind of jumbled at the end and talking about a lot of different things. So I'm just going to go over a few of the things we already did, and then we'll move into the things we didn't cover. So for year 2, 2022 to 2025, our objective is to continue efforts to build a variety of self-help groups in all communities 7 days a week. Strategy 1 to accomplish that is to identify a subcommittee to research the usefulness and accessibility of forming the following support groups: Women for Sobriety, Moderation Management, Secular Organizations for Sobriety, Right to Recover. Those are just examples of some of the groups that exist that may be good things to have here in Greene County. I know that Amari is working on some like the women's groups. So maybe that's something we can talk them into expanding to Greene County, you know? So that's the one strategy. Second strategy is to start a support group for new recoveries and their families and identify recovery leaders to lead up the efforts. We're doing that with Celebrating Families. That's a support group that can be used for people with lived experience, you know, for their families. Mm-hmm. So strategy 3 is to create flyers, marketing materials that will disseminate through your normal avenues. Strategy 4 is to increase and enhance psychiatric services and medication availability to those diagnosed with co-occurring disorders in a timely manner. So that's just looking for opportunities for more people to provide services in Greene County. Establish a subcommittee that will be used to develop or to explore RCO development. So our recovery community organization, that's our next step in year 2. So by year 2, I think that we should be able to have a committee that just focuses on RCO development, creating that recovery community organization. I don't know if there's a partner or if it's us. I don't know. You know, I say that all the time because I don't know what it looks like, but that's something we need to start thinking about. Bring together leading agencies and hire psychiatrists dedicated to diagnosing and treating recoveries with co-occurring disorders. So that's just looking for more services in the county. Develop and host educational seminars for SUD and mental health education, awareness and stigma reduction. Educational seminars are just trainings. We are going to start in April, life development course. So every month we will be hosting a life development. It might be on managing your finances. It might be on nutrition. It might be on different things that you need to live a successful life. We're going to start that in April. So towards the end of April is when we'll be starting that. And we're going to offer it virtually like we do everything else and in person because some people just don't want to come to a support group. So we're looking forward to that. I'm actually really excited about that one. Bring together.
Are you using a certain program for that?
No, but we did get introduced to a program yesterday.
Okay.
Did you have one in mind?
I might have a couple. I need to remember what their names are. It's kind of ones that we've used at the high school level before.
Okay.
But you could probably use them and kind of bounce off of them.
I don't
What
have
was
it
that
with
one
me.
called?
That's what I was going to ask. I don't have it
Life?
with me. Yeah, we'll get.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that because we do have some that we
Okay.
are going to use, but there's one we found out about yesterday,
Okay.
and I'm really interested in others because I want this to get
Yeah.
more than one life skills course throughout the month. So
Absolutely.
we'll see where that heads. But yes, let's touch base on that. Let me make a note of that. And collaborate with Ross Council to gain consensus on subjects to present. So that's just kind of what we do. We talk about the different things, you know, just building what we're doing, building upon our work, basically, is what it is. Some of those topics can be disease of addiction, health afflictions, SUD interwoven with co-occurring disorders, recovery as a process and journey, relapse prevention, just different steps. You know, I think that we do a good job inviting our partners and stuff, but there's other things that I want to do during the monthly meetings as we move forward. And the outcomes to measure those targets for those year 1 and 2. Did we successfully achieve sustained growth? Did we increase involvement of people with lived experience? How many new recovery options was developed? Did our council serve as a forum for expanded awareness of recovery supports within our community? And did we maintain monthly meetings, meeting minutes, post the recordings, etc.? I think that those are pretty achievable targets, measurements. So goal 3, reducing stigma. So during this year, it's to increase knowledge of what people who are in recovery experience on a human level before and during the recovery process. So what we mean by that is just inviting PLEs to the council. And I think that we have done a great job with that. Strategy 2 is to create a campaign on stigma and address misconceptions related to persons in recovery. I think we do a great job with that as well. Allowing people to share their stories so that people see them and not the stigma. I think that that's really important. I think we do a good job at that. Identify ROSC partners to leverage speaking events, which we do. Develop a plan for SAMHSA Recovery Month. So implementing Stop the Stigma is something that I would like to do later this summer. I think that just implementing that and having an entire month of activities would be great. Identifying and helping develop additional MAR treatment options, which is something Amanda and Molly were going to do. We had to cancel. We are going to be rescheduling that. We're looking to expand additional options in Green and Scott. Raise awareness of existing harm reduction services within the community and promote their utilization. So for instance, our Narcan, our drug disposal packets, our fentanyl testing strips, those things that we have available. And then there's other programs like the Phoenix Center and their needle exchanges and stuff. You know, we've been advocating and promoting their work as well. Well, hi, how are you? Strategy 8 is to regularly educate the community on harm reduction services, including the use of Narcan. We've done a fantastic job at that. In fact, Amanda just did a presentation at the school and did it to all 90 people employed at the school. And believe it or not, we gave every single person Narcan.
We had to order like 10 more boxes of Narcan.
So it was
Carrollton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're looking to build upon that. The state was blown away by that. So we're going to be looking at doing that in other places as well.
Yeah, it went over.
Very well. Establish a partnership with local educators and host educational seminars with local schools. We are doing that. Amanda's actually scheduled to do health classes. We're going to do it at North Green this school year, and then the other 2 school districts next school year. There's just not enough time between now and then for us to do all the things on our wish list. In year 2 through 4, identify and host educational events with leaders from the recovery community. Continue efforts to engage the community participating in community events. Identify host speakers in the local schools. Those are pretty achievable. It's kind of just building upon what we've already done. The measurements for that is the number of events ROS staff hosted or participated in, and the promotional materials, the number of individuals connected to resources, the number of community partner meetings, and the number of speakers or PLEs in the ROSC events. Pretty achievable measurements for that goal. Goal 4 is to improve basic living needs. Acknowledging that there is a need in the recovery community to support basic living, we are going to work to remove the barriers, including transportation, food security, employment, and housing. Our strategy to do that is to identify the barriers in transportation within Green and Scott. So we have been doing that since that is a year 1 objective. We've been working to bridge those gaps. Some of the gaps we filled ourselves, some of the gaps we provide transportation gift certificates like cards for, and then some of them we have arranged transportation on one of the mass transit. So we do a lot at no cost to anybody in the community. So gift cards for gas, you name it, we have it and it's available to them. Strategy 2 is to develop and implement a plan to support transportation in the short term through the use of transportation vouchers, gift cards. Like I said, we've been doing that, and identifying a list of existing transportation and housing supports within Green and Scott. We did do that, and that is what is in your community resource guide. It's not much. So we're going to be looking to expand upon that as we move forward. By the end of year 1, we are going to develop a living document of recovery friendly housing supports within Green and Scott. So that's going to be a Heather project. So we're going to be looking to build upon what we've done already as we move forward in the second half of year 1. Identify and develop a plan to ensure individuals can obtain basic services such as their license, food assistance, social security card, etc. We've done that. That is our peer supported recovery support navigation services that Amanda leads up. Strategy 6 is to research and develop a plan to utilize volunteers for transportation support. We're doing that. We're not getting very far. Nobody's really interested in it, but I do have an idea. John Magnuson from Macoupin and Montgomery County ROSC started an RCO, Recovery Community Organization, and they provide transportation services for guys and girls in recovery. And I want to maybe piggyback off of what they did. I don't know if that's us. I don't know if, I don't know what that looks like, but I'm going to be meeting with John within the next few months. Strategy 7 is to work with PLEs to identify local resources that can provide training for long-term employment. And that's kind of what we're adding in what we said. We're going to start our life skills management classes starting in April. So, and I know you weren't here for that, but we were talking about doing finance, resumes, job searching. So we're doing life skills class. We'll hopefully get one a week. So we'll get you guys the schedule as well once we have that, so that your people can utilize that.
Yeah.
Because
I know your court is beneficial some of the classes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Strategy 8 is to participate in and engage other community organizations, which we are actually actively doing. We do that on a regular basis. In year 2, we will identify and meet with local organizations that could potentially establish their presence within Greene and Scott County for recovery housing. So that means looking for places like Oxford House. We're looking for somebody that will start an Oxford House in Greene County. And Oxford houses are non-state funded, non-state licensed recovery housing. So basically, people could go there for free, but the money is, you might be able to explain it better, Bob.
Yeah, I've worked with several of them. They're not free.
Okay.
Most of them are in the $400, $450 a month range.
Okay. Yes.
They are furnished housing. The guys are required to have a job within 30 days. They're required to do 5 meetings a week. They do a house drop once a week.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all sober-based housing.
Right.
And April 1st, there's one opening up in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the one that we were just talking about in Bloomington. When we were in Bloomington, they were talking about the new one. And there's also going to be one in Hillsborough. It's in Macoupin or Montgomery County. So there's going to be options.
Yes.
Regardless if we end up getting one here or not, there's going to be options closer. And several of the facilities take Medicaid, which is huge. Medicaid.
So is the housing, is it like?
It's all-
It's almost like a
houses, or is it like one,
It's like
a
a
big
house, like a sober living
Okay.
facility.
It just
You
gives
know.
you, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a house where you can go to live because
I
you
just
want to
know there's
go.
Like a lot of
perfect house in
them-
My home right now that is like.
Wouldn't it be great to have
It's
one?
huge.
So
Yeah, because a lot of them go like, so they go, to rehab and then it keeps them accountable, afterwards.
yeah, and then like the state provides a specific set of funding for groups that do this. And that money, it comes like if you go to it and you can't afford it, you're paid for and covered by the state funds. So it would be great to have that around here,
Like subsidized housing.
like subsidized housing essentially. And there's more money coming. So IDHS is pouring more money into this. So it'd be something that would be great to try to get here, even if it's not a big house.
With Gateway, we're able to find some scholarships for some of the guys.
Oh, really?
Individual type thing, where it would be maybe a one-time thing to get their downstroke for their first month's rent,
That's awesome.
to get them going. But it was done individually by
Right.
each case,
Right.
Which,
And
and we had an awful lot of what we called retreads, guys that
Yeah.
have been through treatment 7, 8 times
right.
that are there because they're homeless.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think it'd be great to get something close. I mean, Jacksonville's great, but it'd be really
Something
cool.
closer.
Yeah, something closer.
So maybe we can work with a couple of builders in the area, because if they flip a house,
Yeah,
we worked with the guys with Gateway where the recovery home, they would even do some of the labor to
Yeah.
work with it.
yeah. And when we get to there, that could be something we start exploring because I can think of several people in construction industry
Yeah.
that would do it for free because they're in recovery themselves. So,
Yes, a way of giving back.
right. Yeah. So when we get to that point, we may sit and visit this again.
Brainstorm a little bit with that stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd love to do that.
I have to be in recovery before I can.
Like.
You are
Meeting?
with the house. So
I didn't expect to see him here, but.
Oh, nervous.
no, don't be
Yeah, I'll be
nervous.
nervous.
No, this is a safe space.
At least I'm being good, right?
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after. Okay. So identify a community organization that has the capacity to develop additional supports to establish partners. We're doing that. We're actually in the process, so that just builds upon what we're going to do for year 2. Establish a relationship with faith-based organizations. We're trying to do that. We're continuing to do that because that's essential to our success. Hosting educational events for PLEs and money management, employment skills training. If we continue on our current course, we are going to exceed that. So if we continue on our current course, year 2 goals will be exceeded in year 1, and we'll need to come up with new goals. But
It's a good problem.
that's a good
Yeah.
problem to have. And I think that we should just continue on our course. And our measurements for that is the number of individuals connected with resources, notes from the meetings, numbers of events hosted. Did we expand access? So it's pretty achievable.
Yes, I think that's all realistic.
Realistic goals, it's simplified goals.
Yeah.
And we're going to have good problems. Not many people can say they're going to exceed their targets.
They're achievable.
So is there anything that we are missing? Is there anything that we forgot? And Molly, feel free to jump in if you have to. You don't have to. Don't feel like you have to. As far as our targets go,
So I think when looking at some of this, for me, it was what emphasis are you putting on it? You know, some of these targets are in the same category or the same group or idea for year 1 or year 2 or year 3, which I fully understand it's multifaceted. So I guess I'm just pointing that out in terms of, you know, one of the things we need are resources in terms of the transportation, in terms of, and so the emphasis on that may be a little bit higher than on, say, the education portion, or I'm just throwing that out as an example. I'm just, I guess you'll figure that out as it goes along.
that's what I'm thinking because yes, like the things like recovery housing, transportation, those are really big problems that we have to really lean into. I think the only way we fix that, nobody's going to come to Greene County. You know, no service provider is going to come and open up services here. The only way I think we fix that is if we, the ROSC, push ourselves to RCO development, Recovery Community Organization Development, which then addresses those specific problems. We become an organization that literally, that's the problems. We get funding specifically for that to address those problems. So
We could invite it rather than solicit.
right. And then because I was talking with the state and the state says, let's be real, nobody's going to come to Greene County or do anything for us. They're going to continue to look over. I mean,
Although I will say, last meeting I was at here, I met with or the person from Amari,
Mhm.
escapes me. But since that time, getting that connection, we now have Amari going to
Mhm.
Green County Jail.
Mhm.
So that's, something that we didn't have before.
Right.
which
Yep.
Just simply knowing that that was out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Was able to get.
And I think by leaning into the those ROSC partnerships, we're going to continue to be able to put those pieces together as we go, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because I don't know what the answer to the transportation is. I don't think the other ROSCs have figured that out across the state. What we've done in the meantime to supplement it is we provide gas cards, we provide transportation, like on one of the mass transit systems. We'll pay for that for you. We'll set it up for you. There's no barrier whatsoever. You need help, just come to us. We're going to help you. We're going to help you one way or the other, or we'll find somebody to give you a ride. Yeah.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
What if, so you're helping these people, what if they don't want to help themselves?
Well, that happens, and that's a normal part of recovery. You just,
I'm learning
just
all
like-
this, so.
just like with anything else, you just try to keep helping, and eventually the right puzzle pieces are going to come together, and you're going to connect to the right resources. That's kind of like, what we do. Just kind of putting those puzzle pieces
It takes
together.
a while, but
It
I
takes
just
a
don't
while.
want- Like, I look at people like, you have to want for yourself before anybody else can.
You do. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. And there are times, that it not just there, but that's okay. Everybody's at a different place in their recovery, So just to answer your question, Judge, I do think that those are the emphasis, but we're going to have to create an entire organization to actually fix those issues. In the meantime, it's more of putting those little pieces together, different ROSC members, connecting the resources, connecting the dots. We just continue to communicate what are our needs, what do we need next, and just kind of bridging those gaps. You're welcome.
The transit's been really good with helping.
The transit has been fantastic.
They're even taking, we schedule those appointments for them, even taking them even just to court. too.
I've seen the
So,
transit
that's-
at the food pantry this morning about moving out of the water.
Yeah, they've been really,
They've been fantastic,
Mhm.
helping us get people to you.
to doctor's
um,
appointments.
Doctor's appointments.
And we've been making it for them and even like calling and saying, don't forget, you,
And that's something that we're doing now. It's not in the ROSC strategy, and it's not going to be in the ROSC strategy. But we're starting more of a case management for appointments, for court dates, so that we can keep people moving and progressing in the right direction. We're going beyond just the peer support. We're taking them and leading them. Sometimes they go with you, sometimes they don't. But that case management aspect, helping set up those appointments, calling and making those appointments, talking with the nurses at the doctor's offices, and then communicating that back to them so that there's a firm understanding. Because a lot of times the missing pieces are people just simply don't understand what's being said. So we're trying to help bridge that gap and ensure that people are constantly moving forward in their recovery and they don't have an opportunity to fall backwards. I know one of our Locust Street says that the biggest thing that they have, the nurse over there says, people just coming to their appointments. So I'm like, how can we fix that? So we sat down, we're like, I have an idea, let's just call them and tell them you have an appointment. And I'm like, well, that's kind of it's the simple way to address the situation. It's worked. So literally we're calling and reminding people about their appointments, reminding them about appointments with you, reminding them about different things, and it's keeping them moving forward. Hey, do you need a ride? Hey, what do you got going on? Hey, do you need gas money? Okay, bring me your sheet for your meetings or come meet with us. And we're going to make sure that you're constantly moving forward and you don't have an opportunity.
I think that kind of starts with the stigma, where the thing that we worked with them with Gateway was that they're sick people, not bad people.
Right.
And we outreach with some of the employers in the area, and kind of encourage it. And there are a couple of companies that are in the Jacksonville area that are champions
Of recovery.
of gateway and recovery in general.
Yeah.
So it's just working with them to get rid of that stigma.
Yeah.
And with the medical appointments and stuff like that, it said that when these guys started drinking and using, they stopped growing.
Mhm.
And when they finally stopped, they start growing again. So you got guys that are trying to schedule their doctor's appointments or different things that their parents or somebody else took care of all the
That's done
time
it
for
for
them
them.
and
Yes.
did it where they don't know.
Yep.
Right.
Home skills, life skills.
Mhm.
You know, they don't know how to make a bed.
Right.
You know, they don't know how to do this or that. You're working with a guy that it might be a 10 or 11-year-old kid now in a 40-year-old body that's trying to learn life skills.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're trying to help
Yes.
bridge those gaps.
Yep.
You know, we're not going to be a perfect solution to everything,
Right.
but as we go, we're learning more and more people. That's one of the problems that we've ran into is getting people to their appointments. Doctors shutting off medicine. Like, we just got a call out of the blue. They're like, listen, we're shutting off medicine. We're like, what are you even talking about? We had no clue. So that we are looking for ways that we can help these people continue to move forward. And that's just one of the ways that I think it's beneficial and I think it's working. I think it's
But
working.
some of them give us their appointments, and so then I'll call, schedule them, call them back and say, okay, you're gonna be picked up at this time on this day, and we remind them, you know, the day before.
We've set
too.
appointments for mental health providers, substance use treatment providers,
Dental.
dental.
It's nice to have you all around.
Like,
That's what
we'll
we're
call and
here
make the appointments. Like, I don't know. It's working. It is working. Case management is something that's proven to work. It's proven to be helpful. Yeah.
I just got to add in, Bob, I really loved what you just said. I mean, the way you communicated that about people being sick and not bad, and just the stigma relationship. It needs to be said more broadly so that people hear what you just said, because people don't think of things, this scenario like that, and changing stigma is sharing that story you just said more broadly. So maybe we can chat about that, or I can kind of read what was said here, and again, share that with our community. I think that's great.
Thank you.
I agree. But yeah, that's some of the things that we're trying to do. Just trying to build bridges across some of these gaps that exist. And they're big gaps, but you're starting to see movement. So I'm really excited about
I
those.
picked up a tourniquet in front of the elementary school the other day, and it really bothered me.
Yep.
At his school, on North Green, but it really bothered me.
You see that we see that quite a bit.
And he, in Boy Scouts, 1 year, his scout leader made all the kids go and pick up all the trash at Reed House Park. And I had a little bit of a hard time with that, because I didn't want him to have something that.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep. It can happen.
It can, for sure. So is there anything else that we're missing, or anything that we need to add in there? Now, this is a living document, so this isn't like the tell-all be-all, we're done. We're gonna have to revisit the strategy annually. But I do anticipate the strategy. I anticipate us to exceed all of our targets and just have to set some additional targets in year 2, 3, and 4.
I think this is great. I think and I'm sure you probably have it. So we have our goals, we have our objective, we have our strategy.
Mhm.
Are you looking at strategy as your action plan? I mean, have you broken it down that far as what actions are you taking to meet this strategy to like develop and implement an outreach and communications plan and membership protocol for council membership?
Which we did.
So like, what actions did you take?
Yeah, I don't
to
think,
meet that
I don't think,
strategy?
do you think
that?
we need to go that deep?
I don't know, maybe on some of them, not so much, but because it may help you identify things that were missed, and, as you guys are doing this, and it may help us as a council members to see some of that and go, oh, wait a minute, maybe this action would have been, maybe we should have done A instead of B, C, and D. And the only reason why I think that is because, in moving forward and, into the different years is being able to look back on the actions that you took and go, okay, were these actions enough or was it not enough? And what can we do the next year to improve upon it? So, and that also keeps you from doing the same actions over and over.
Right.
You're building, but even if, and you guys probably are, like just taking note of what you're doing. I don't want to say like on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis.
We take it down to the hour.
What was your action for, the movie thing, or how what did you brainstorm to come up with things?
Right.
What was that process?
Right. I see what you mean.
Come up with that
So we
stuff?
actually log everything down to the minute.
Okay.
Literally
You don't
down
have to do that. I mean,
down
that's-
to the
that's
minutes.
crazy.
We have a log that literally says, this is what we did on this date.
Okay.
And it like basically does just that. So
And I
like,
think that's something maybe, I don't know if this is exactly what you were looking for, but then you can go back and go, okay, we spent X amount of time on this, Do we need to shift gears and spend more about what's our priority here?
Right.
Do we need to spend less time here and put more of our energy over here?
right.
And it's just kind of nice to have that so that you get your year-end review, you're looking and going, oh boy, okay, this piece might have faltered, so we know the next step, this is gonna be our priority.
Right.
Here.
Right.
Yes. So,
Well-
and there will be an annual report. Sorry,
Okay.
Molly, go ahead.
I was just gonna add that right now, though, it's basically we're setting up a lot of programs. And year
Okay.
2, after we set this up, then we're gonna be like, all right, we had this program that we did all the training on and only 4 people showed up. So now we need to figure out another opportunity that makes, more sense. I think that data and information that we're seeking is something that's going to come as we go with year 1. And year 2, we might look back and see what programs were specifically beneficial.
Right. Because it is, I mean, you're just in a building year, I mean.
Right. This is
You're
just building.
starting.
Yeah.
Right. Like literally, we're
Yeah.
just it seems like we've been at this for a long time.
Right.
We are baby Rosk. We are still like, when we were at the meeting,
Yeah, some of
we
them
were
have been
introduced as the new Ross
Oh,
people, and we've been at it for 6 months almost. So like, this is something that, we're doing things now that some Rosk have never done. There's a Rosk that started at the same time we did. They didn't start having a meeting until
a month ago.
A month ago. So we're really far ahead. Luckily, like they actually said, not everybody gets the amount of time that we did to lay the groundworks to do these things. So I think when we do the annual report and stuff, you're going to see this was beneficial, this probably not so much.
Yeah. And so Ron's, you guys keep the data too. So within that annual report, you're going to have number-based information. So I
Yeah.
feel like that'll be helpful later.
So what else do we have? Does anybody else think we're missing anything? Judge, did you have anything to add?
But we have the lived experience meeting. Or is it
Yes,
too?
so that was the next thing. So if we're okay with this strategy plan, then I'd like to submit it to the full council for a vote at our next council meeting. So I'll need a motion to approve. And second,
And I'll second it.
and those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. So we'll send this to the full council, and then if the full council agrees, we'll have the state, or we'll send it to the state and tell them this is what we're doing.
This is what we want.
This is what, yeah.
This is what we'd like to do.
Yeah. So we are doing something. I know we talked last time. I told you guys a little bit about persons with lived experience, and I don't want to call it that. Dr. White from Chicago. She lives in Chicago. She put me out in my place. She's a woman that can very easily do that with her words. She wants us to all, Ross, to stop calling people with lived experience like myself, person with lived experience. She says, well, all of us are in recovery, the whole community. Which kind of makes sense, you know? So that's the one thing that I, in our year 2 that I'll change. All the documents have lived experience. I will remove that from all the documents for year 2. But in the meantime, we are starting a people with lived experience executive committee that will serve as a platform, a safe place for people with lived experience to come that, well, you don't have the judge in it, or you don't have Kevin, or you don't have Bob, or, well, you Bobby, but you don't have Molly. Like, it's just for people with lived experience, like a support group, but it's talking about the Rosk's work.
Hey, I'm creeping up on 9 months this time. I'm very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you for being here. But it's going to be on April 18th at 7 o'clock. And then our next council meeting is actually April 18th at 9 a.m. So we will have a actual report to submit to you from that at the next strategy meeting at the end of the month.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
So specifically about persons with lived experience, you know, a lot of times what happens is the state will change framework and the way something is described. And then it takes a while for the community to understand what that means. So if there's any education and things to like really put out there, I think that's important to know, because people won't understand until there's some education about it.
Right.
A lot of times they've changed the word disparities to equity, and they've changed, you know, it just happens every so often that there'll be a name change. So we just need to kind of provide education on that if that's where they're going.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. I feel pretty good about this strategy plan. I feel pretty good about the work that we've done so far. The feedback that we got while we were in Bloomington was amazing, actually. The Ross councils wanted to know more about how we're accomplishing what we are accomplishing. So that's something I pat ourselves on the back, you know, like we've done a fantastic job. There's a lot more work to do, but I feel pretty good about it. Anybody else have anything else to add?
Question, the Ross Council on the 18th, is that here?
Yes, so the Ross Council on the 18th is here. The PLE meeting, the 9 o'clock one, 9 o'clock on the 18th is here. The people with lived experience one will be at Root House at 7. And then our next strategy meeting is,
And they will get a gift card.
I know we've talked about, speaking of what I've been through, can I write it on paper? So I don't have to talk?
yeah,
Well, and it's something, when you get comfortable. Don't do it unless you're comfortable.
Yep.
You know, it's when you're
Because I know a lot of people in the community, and I know people like stuff.
comfortable. But do it when you're, you know what I mean, when you're comfortable. You don't
And I have
have
a
to.
bad name anyway.
don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it'll be April, the end of April. What day is that? The next strategy meeting is,
My son did talk about the bathroom. So
I don't have my calendar. Where's my,
I
have
did
your
it for
phone?
mom, no big idea.
I need a calendar in front of me.
April 25th, is it the last Tuesday?
April 25th.
Yeah.
So I will be joining that one virtually from Atlanta
And that's our board.
at 4 o'clock here at the health department. Amanda and Heather will be here, and then I'll be joining you virtually.
You get that virtual down yet, Amanda?
Oh, well, we ended up having to roll with it last time. It would not connect. So
You see,
that happened at the one yesterday we were at too.
we were at the one in McCarlinville, and they actually did have the same tech issues.
Yeah, exactly. So I felt a little better.
Motion to adjourn? All right, we're done. We're out of here.
Thank you,
all.
guys.
Thank you all for everything. We're doing great things here. Thank you, Judge. Thanks, Molly, or she's gone. She's gone.